Hello everyone. I'm Sreemati Mukherjee, professor in the Department of Performing Arts at Presidency University. I have been requested by Dr. Lopamudra Banerjee to say a few words on theatre, and I think his name is Ojoy Chatterjee, who has actually made the initial request that I speak on either of three topics that he suggested, of which one was method theatre, the other was Bangla theatre traditions, and the third one I've forgotten. So instead of requesting this and that person to videotape my lecture, I just decided to do it on my own right now. And frankly speaking, without any preparation at all, just based on the knowledge that I've internalized over, let's say, the last 5 years, and had time to prepare because I just finished a very important project yesterday. So, what is drama? What is its generic significance? Why is drama or theatre? I mean, there's a distinction between the two terms, drama and theatre. That theatre is the performance on the stage, and drama is that as well as the text. So nowadays, a very firm distinction is made between drama and theatre, the text and the performance text. For instance, say in the post-colonial period of India, when Nehru set up the Sangeet Natak Academy, the Sahitya Academy in the 1950s, hoping that through the Sangeet Natak Academy, through the pervasive nature of theatre traditions in India, it would be possible to bridge the enormous differences in this country that was at that time, almost rent apart by internal divisions. So theatre was envisaged by him as a way to bridge such differences, and there were a series of conferences held at the SNA. Sachin Sengupta, I think, was the president of one such conference, and Mulkraj Anand, Habib Tanveer, Panikkar, K.M. Panikkar, Girish Karnad, all the leading playwrights, theatre practitioners, theatre philosophers participated at that time. Now, the major idea that surfaced was that India should go back to its indigenous idioms. The argument was that in our country, in our traditions, we did not have the proscenium arch theatre, and nor did we have commercialized aspects of theatre, in the sense that we never sold tickets for our people to watch theatre. I mean, we know about this. We know about this age-old tradition, cultural ritual, where people sat around the performers while they performed. So the accent had been on going back to indigenous traditions, to Jatra and Pandavani and the Yakshagana, Barakatha, all the indigenous forms that existed. And now the Aparna Tharwarkar, who has done definitive work on post-colonial theatre. I forget exactly what the title of her book is. She asks the very relevant critical question that is it really possible to turn back the clock? And, in any case, the 200 years of our indigenous traditions, not 200, I mean, over millennia, actually, if you go back to Sanskrit times, but more or less, it is from the Bhakti period or from medieval times that the tradition of Bhakti drama begins, and you have the charuns and the notis, and this is not really classical, but then certain elements from the Natashastra, for instance, in the Yakshagana, the Purvarang, certain elements do persist, but it becomes a not so elitist kind of form, the Bhakti drama, and but what the worker points out is that there had been no growth in this tradition. And there had been no growth in this tradition, and there were no developments as such. And she also says that is it possible to reverse history? I mean, these things have happened. The proscenium has happened. Realism has been part of the Kolkata stage, because it was in Kolkata and Mumbai, that theatre traditions began in India during colonial times. Okay, now so to go back to Stanislavsky, the thing is that when Stanislavsky entered the theatre scene in Moscow towards the end of the 19th century, he found that theatre was not practiced in a serious manner. And then he found that, like the Natashastra, for instance, provides very detailed instructions as to how actors should perform, eye movements, eyebrow movements, nostril movements, etc., that there was no such compendium in Western traditions that would provide actors with directions as to how to train and how to act. So it's not like he created his method right away. The method was created much later, written down. But he started excavating, and he started researching, and he started thinking about, how theatre should be practiced. Not in some kind of melodramatic, hyper realistic or melodramatic manner in which it was practiced at that time in Russia and perhaps in other places in Europe. So the central concepts that I have come across while teaching Stanislavsky, two important concepts. One important concept is perezhivanie. Perezhivanie means, it's a Russian word, means pre-expressivity. Stanislavsky's point, you could say, or premise, or principle, is this: that the training of the actor should be such that she or he should be in a state of constant readiness to perform. That is, now I will introduce you to two concepts. They are called dilated body and dilated mind. But then to go back to perezhivanie a little bit more, that is, perezhivanie in English would be pre-expressivity, which means that the actor's body and mind are trained in such a manner, of course through rigorous through rigorous practice. Rivas, we know about the value of rivas. I have a cousin brother who practiced or did his rivas for 7 hours a day, So then you have so many examples from so many walks of artistic life where people spend hours practicing, holding their breath and waiting to strike the perfect note in the upper octave. So the thing is, Perisavani means pre-expressivity. That is, the actor is so well trained that, even before the words are uttered, that state of sadness or gloom or exasperation or questioning or bewilderment already exists inside. It's organic. It's part of the actor's ontology already. So now I shall transit to two very important terms. They are dilated body and dilated mind. It's not that the concepts, the terms are Stanislavsky's, but these are terms that critics have developed from Stanislavsky's principles. And dilated body is most likely Eugenio Barba's term. That is, that the mind makes demands on the body. In the sense that, let me actually take the help of a later drama practitioner to explain dilated mind to you. Not so much dilated body, dilated mind and dilated body. Because all these practitioners, whether it's Stanislavsky and then later on Grotowski, Barba, who worked in the Stanislavsky tradition, and maybe even later Peter Brook, all of them emphasize a very, very rigorous physical exercise mode to train physically so that you're in complete control and at optimum performance level all the time. Once Eugenio Barba had asked Sanjukta Panigrahi that, what was the difference between Lok Dharma and Natya Dharma? And she had, replied in a very simple language by saying that Lok Dharma was behavior in everyday life and Natya Dharma was behavior in dance. So if we expand that more theoretically, then it's like this, that all the energy that we require for our day-to-day activities, walking, sitting, eating, that's our regular energy. Now, the superfluous energy that remains after that is the energy that the performer needs to use to achieve excellence or true form in her or his work. The pointing of the ballerina's toe, for instance, or the holding of the leg during the Shiva Tandava. These things, Mei Lan Fang, he says that as a child, he was made to stand with stilts on bricks. Can you imagine exactly how painful that would be to stand on bricks, on stilts, a child, say of 13 or 14? But you do it, and eventually you get used to it, and you're perfectly comfortable with it. So that is Rivas. That is the dilated body. That is what Barba is speaking of. That you extend the body's abilities to such an extent that it can answer the mind's needs at any time. So let me, now retrace my steps a little bit and go back to the concept of dilated body and dilated mind. So, well, even before I speak of dilated mind, I shall say a few more things about dilated body. Barba uses the term prana. He says prana in India and ki hoi, I think, in Japan, and kung fu in China. He says that Kung Fu is actually derived from the name of the Chinese philosopher Confucius. And it actually means mastery in any subject. So it is the name of a particular martial arts. But at the same time, it is also, excellence, consummation of abilities in any particular field. So, and of course, in the case of performance, a great deal of it has to do with control of the breath. So, yoga is very important, certainly. And this is not something Barba has said, but I'm saying that it is yoga that gives you, that control of the breath. And so he uses Ki Hai and Koshi in Japan, Prana in India, Vayu in Indonesia or Java, and Kung Fu in China. So, the dilated mind is a mind that, it's related to the term pre-expressivity, meaning whatever the emotion, anger, jealousy, separation, viraha. Say I refer to the Navarasas, the 9 rasas, okay? Shringar, Hasya, Adbhuta, Karuna, Veer, Krodh and Veeram, I think the same. And then you have Bhayanak, Vibhatsha, and Shanta. So, do you think it's possible for an actor to just get up on the stage and create Vibhatsha? No. It requires hours and hours and hours of training to do that. And extending your own psychological and mental abilities to be able to understand Bibhatsha, the terrible, the repulsive, the outrageous from inside. So in Stanislavsky, it is, it's the magic words, what if? What if I was that person? Therefore, to inhabit the character totally from inside. Now, if I bring Grotowski into this picture, then you will truly get the idea in a very dramatic manner. Like Grotowski's point was that the actor must strip herself or himself of himself or herself, encounter with the self. Supposing you have to play the role of a Nazi officer, can you really summon those emotions within you that a Nazi officer would have felt? Which means you dive deep into yourself. Rabindranath speaks all the time of confronting the self. Poraner shathe khelibo ajike morono khela nishito bela. So you dive deep into yourself and you try to find out, amar moddhe ki shei cruelty ache jar দ্বারা আমি একজন নাৎসি অফিসারের কাজ করতে পারি এবং এই কনফ্রন্টেশনের দ্বারা এটা খুব ভয়ঙ্কর হতে পারে, খুব ভয়ানক হতে পারে, একটা মানুষের বিইংটাকে নষ্ট করে ধ্বংস করে দিতে পারে। কিন্তু ব্যাপারটা হচ্ছে যে you need this confrontation. Only then will the truth come into your acting. So acting is no joke. Acting is very serious business. Grotowski said that at some point religion gave people this self-confrontation, আত্ম-উপলব্ধি বা একটা শব্দ আছে, আত্মদর্শন. But religion doesn't do that anymore. So theatre has to do it. I mean, theatre was a kind of martyrdom almost, that you sacrifice yourself in order to get at the truth about yourself and thereby evoke the truth in the audience. Therefore, the encounter with the audience, therefore meeting the audience, was an encounter where you spoke the truth to each other, or the actor spoke his truth. By enacting the character, the actor spoke her or his truth. And it is this truth that impacted the audience to truly get the picture. Now, Grotowski, Barba, they're all actually derived. They have derived their principles. You could say expanded it from Stanislavsky. So for Stanislavsky, it was this truth. What if you, you imagine you're the character? And in Stanislavsky, the question of emotion memory is very important. That you have gone through some kind of, let's say, traumatic experience, and you retain the traces of that. And then when you act, then you can summon these memories and you can thereby act powerfully. But the limitation with this principle is that young actors will not have such strong emotion memories. And therefore, the American theatre practitioner and director and also follower of Stanislavsky, Stella Adler, she advocated emphasis on the text. Emphasis on the text and emphasis on the text because young actors would not have such strong emotion memories. Like someone playing the role of Macbeth might be able to summon a great deal of, emotion memory. But a young actor would not, it would be very difficult. Therefore, for Stella Adler, it is important to study the text very, very carefully. And I'm a literature major. And we studied drama, and that's what it was called at that time. For us, drama meant the text, to analyze the text very well. And in Shakespeare's time, one form of acting, of course it was all very declamatory, but one form of acting was, to speak in such a way that the richness of the metaphors and the multiplicity of the metaphors came through during the actor's speech or dialogue or whatever. So with Stanislavsky, it is what if, meaning if you were that character, and the use of emotion memory. And along with that, of course, physical exercise, training of the body, and another thing that another term that one could use vis-a-vis Stanislavsky here is scenic presence, that you've got to own the stage. The actor has to own the stage. So the minute you get on the stage, I mean, that also goes back to Natya Dharma, The dancer is no ordinary person, the actor is no ordinary person. You have your presence. So Stanislavsky's point is, or premise is, or advocacy is, that the actor has to own the stage. The stage has to be owned by him. Well, that's all for today. If I come back again, I shall come back with more ideas. Thank you.